Hi, I am Maggie Holland. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and let's go over the 14 different types of narcissism. There are several unofficial types of narcissism that are included with narcissistic personality disorder, otherwise known as NPD. And under that umbrella, there are vulnerable narcissists, there is cerebral narcissists, sexual narcissists, among many others that we're going to talk about. And while narcissistic personality disorder is generally characterized by a grandiose sense of self and an unwillingness to express empathy or tap into empathy, many professionals consider narcissistic personality disorder to be a spectrum disorder, and it often presents quite differently from individual to individual. So before we can understand the different types of narcissism, it's important to understand what narcissistic personality actually is. So let's go into that. So narcissistic personality disorder is one of 10 diagnosable personality disorders, and it is defined by a grandiose sense of self and a lack of empathy. Now, because narcissists are unable to find their worth internally, they are often hyper-focused on how they are seen by others, how people perceive them, and how they're treated by others. So they rely on external attention and praise in order to feel special or important. They're not able to generate these things internally on their own. They rely on other people for their sense of validation. Now, narcissists can experience what's called narcissistic collapse. They can become defensive, they can react negatively, they can react explosively, and they can even act destructive when they don't get their narcissistic supply filled. So when this happens, their ego quickly deflates and their personal insecurities and shame are exposed, come out in really big ways. So this is referred to as narcissistic injury, which often leads to them being defensive and aggressive, and sometimes they can even go into narcissistic rage. These defense mechanisms can get in the way of them forming and maintaining healthy relationships, and oftentimes they won't have relationships that are very close. Okay, so these defense mechanisms can get in the way of narcissists being able to form and maintain healthy and close relationships. Before I continue, I've linked to videos on narcissistic collapse, supply, and injury in the description below for a better understanding of narcissistic behaviors. Also, you can help improve the quality of mental health information on the web by liking this video and joining us in the comment section below with your story or any questions that you might have. Okay, so back to the different types of narcissism. So because narcissism occurs on a spectrum, it may present and be exhibited in several different ways. So two people diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder may have significantly different presentations if they have different kinds and subtypes of narcissism. So whereas narcissistic personality disorder is an official DSM-5 diagnosis, more specific types and subtypes of narcissism are non-official, informal, and they're just ways of identifying common types of narcissisms with common behaviors between them. So now I'm going to talk about the 14 different types of narcissism. So first up is overt narcissism. So this is kind of like the typical thing that people think of when they think of a narcissist. Overt narcissists have a lot of grandiosity. They exaggerate their accomplishments. They engage in activities that are designed to impress other people. Their overly inflated egos lead them to genuinely believe that they are more special and more deserving than those around them. So further, they are incapable of acknowledging any faults and shortcomings in themselves or in something that they have done, although they might be really quick to point it out on other people. So things are not always reciprocal with a narcissist. With an overt narcissist, pretty much never reciprocal, right? Overt narcissism is typically accompanied by an extroverted personality, and that is used to gain attention and to build the audience for their boasting. So everything comes back to give me that supply that we were talking about earlier. So overt narcissists use their charm and charisma in order to convince other people that they are great. However, their inability to feel empathy results in really superficial relationships that lack genuine warmth and that lack genuine connection, and they do not stand the test of time. So next we have the covert narcissist. So covert narcissists, sometimes also called vulnerable narcissists, tend to appear shy, reserved, they're often self-deprecating, and they often appear worried despite experiencing immense emotional fragility. They also tend to have chronic envy, and they really, really struggle receiving criticism. Covert narcissists tend to constantly compare themselves and judge themselves against other people, other people's happiness, their possessions, their relationships, constant comparison. And because of that, they often spend time alone and may experience a lot higher levels of suicidality than other subtypes of narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, next we have the hypervigilant narcissist. So, hypervigilance reflects the need to be constantly on the lookout for threats. So, when you couple this trait with narcissism, it results in an individual who is always on the watch for signs of criticism or put downs from other people. Hypervigilant narcissists fear rejection very deeply to an extreme degree, and they see slights and insults in others really innocuous behaviors. So, a hypervigilant narcissist cannot relax around other people. They are constantly listening for hints of possible disrespect or belittling from people. And for these types of narcissists, socializing is extremely painful. As you can imagine, they're constantly on edge. And so while they feel that they deserve attention and praise from other people, they're often unable to really handle the risk of rejection or abandonment that comes with social settings. Okay, so our next subtype of narcissism is grandiose narcissism. So, grandiose narcissists display patterns of superiority, pretentiousness, and they really lack consideration for other people, for their feelings, for their time, for the resources that they're using. And while these characteristics are common among many people with narcissistic personality disorder, they tend to be further exaggerated among grandiose narcissists. These types of narcissists may be more assertive, extroverted, and exploitative than others with standard narcissistic personality disorder. Because grandiose narcissists believe so strongly in their abilities and their intelligence, they tend to display a really strong distrust of experts and their superiors and other people in general. So instead, they gravitate towards people who provide them with an abundance of admiration and put them on a pedestal because they think they are the expert. So they might use this to feed into false, exaggerated beliefs about their own importance, their purpose, their abilities, their identity. Those things are also called delusions of grandeur. So fill in that narcissistic supply again. Okay, next we have the exhibitionist narcissist. So exhibitionist narcissist refers to narcissists who have to be the center of attention all of the time. They have to be seen as the life of the party. They absolutely crave admiration of others, and they will go to really great lengths to be noticed. They also want to be caught in the company of people as fabulous as they believe themselves to be. So they want to control the storyline and every character within the story. And they fully believe that other people view them and as special and deserving as they see themselves. They are the ultimate party crashers, photo bombers, attention grabbers. Like they want the attention to be on themselves and they really go to any length to get it. Then we also have sexual narcissism. So sexual narcissists are people who prioritize their own sexual satisfaction and needs. They lack empathy for their sexual partners. They demonstrate an inflated sense of sexual self-esteem. They expect frequent praise for their sexual performance. And they feel entitled to sex when and where they want it. Now, while sex with a narcissist is initially romantic and very passionate, in fact, that's often how they win their partners over, eventually it usually turns one-sided, transactional, and can sometimes even have the potential to become aggressive. So despite seeming to value physical intimacy and presenting with an abundance of confidence in their sexual performance, sexual narcissists may actually have an intimacy disorder that is characterized by giving and receiving emotional closeness. So as a quick reminder, I have linked to our in-depth article on the 14 different types of narcissism in the description below, along with other resources. Make sure to check them out. Okay, so the next type of narcissism is vindictive narcissism. So, vindictive narcissists are hypersensitive to disagreements, boundaries being set, rejection, and perceived criticism from other people. So, they take these experiences extremely personally and they are immensely hurt by them, although they're never going to admit to it. They're extremely hurt on the inside. So, in turn, they may respond with attacks, terrorization towards the other person that they perceive as being unreasonable, but might be setting a totally reasonable boundary. So, vindictive narcissist behavior may include sabotaging somebody's career, reputation. They might respond with narcissistic rage. They might blackmail people. They might talk behind somebody's back. Really, whatever it takes to get back at somebody. Vindictive, revenge, that is their game. So, vindictive narcissists tend to be unmoving in their opinion of the individual that hurt them, very rigid perception. And even if they receive an apology or found out what actually upset somebody, they're never going to apologize. Like their view of that person is rigid and set, even if they get more context later. Then we have malignant narcissists. So, malignant narcissism is a colloquial term used to describe people who exhibit symptoms of both narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. So, when combined, these disorders show up as arrogance, a need for power and recognition, a lack of empathy, a tendency to use and exploit other people, and they might experience pleasure in mistreating other people. Malignant narcissists tend to report more impairments, difficulties with relationships, and worse responses and treatments within those who have typical narcissistic personality disorder. Then we have antagonistic narcissism. So, individuals who merge an antagonistic personality with narcissistic traits present an extremely unattractive persona to others. They lack the charm that other narcissistic types have, and instead they display a lot more unappealing traits such as entitlement, arrogance, lack of empathy, and just a general disregard for everyone else's well being. And their antagonistic personalities lead them to be highly defensive. They assume the worst in others' comments, and they usually respond with anger to any real or imagined slights. So then we have somatic narcissism. So, somatic narcissists derive a sense of superiority, entitlement, self worth from their perception of their physical bodies. So they use their figures and their physical space around them to express their narcissistic traits. And while some somatic narcissists present with confidence in their beauty, their strength, their fitness, they tend to obsess over their appearance and they criticize the appearance of others. And this demonstrates their underlying insecurity and really low and fragile self esteem. Some somatic narcissists may also achieve personal value and superiority from sex. So some of these can overlap a little bit, but really with a somatic narcissist is going to be much more about their body and how they use it and how they display it. So sex isn't necessary as it is with sexual narcissists, but for the somatic narcissist to build self-worth, they do need to have their body on display in ways that other people can appreciate it. So sometimes that includes sex. So then we have the cerebral narcissist. So cerebral narcissists, also sometimes called intellectual narcissists, are individuals that fulfill their narcissistic supply by being perceived as intelligent, well-read, a subject matter expert. So these narcissists tend to be really egocentric. So these narcissists tend to be very focused on how other people perceive their intelligence. And they use this intelligence against other people. They boast about their knowledge. They excessively correct other people and will often downplay other people's intellectual abilities. Now, while intellectual narcissists are generally smart, they will present as more educated than they actually are in order to mask their underlying insecurities and their lack of insight. So next is the spiritual narcissist. Spiritual narcissists derive their self-worth from their faith and their ability to control and manipulate and influence others within their faith community or with their faith. So this kind of narcissist uses their spirituality to hurt others by shaming them, by fear mongering, or by narcissistic gaslighting. So they will bring spirituality and faith into all conversations. They will judge others for their spiritual approach or lack thereof. And they'll often use scripture to prove themselves as right. And they are going to ignore instances that don't support their view of religion and spirituality. Now, while anyone can be a spiritual narcissist, they are most commonly people in positions of power or those who have been through major life transitions and turn to spirituality to help them get through it. Next, we have the communal narcissist. So communal narcissists are those who possess grandiose and inflated perceptions of themselves within a community environment. So they believe that they have extraordinary potential and capability, and they often think of themselves as the best listeners, the best helpers, socializers, the most charitable people on the planet. That is how they perceive themselves. And so in reality, they tend to be a lot more hypocritical because most of their focus centers on meeting their own intrinsic needs, getting their own narcissistic supply filled. Last but not least is healthy narcissism. So while that sounds like an oxymoron, developing healthy narcissism can have its benefits. So having a strong sense of self that is grounded in reality is key to being a healthy, happy, self-confident adult. A healthy narcissist can acknowledge and prioritize their own needs and not feel guilty about it. They might share their successes with other people, but they're not just doing it to gain other people's admiration. Healthy narcissists have self-confidence, healthy boundaries, a commitment to self-growth, and they are going to value their own needs as well as needs of other people. And they're going to combine all of these things in order to be the type of person that other people want to know and spend time around. If you are struggling to deal with a narcissist, or if you think you are experiencing narcissistic tendencies yourself, there is absolutely hope. Consider starting by educating yourself on narcissism, like you just did by watching this video. Also, be sure to check out the resources in the description below, including our Narcissism playlist that includes narcissistic tactics, how to cope with a narcissist, navigating narcissistic relationships. Also, be sure to subscribe to Choosing Therapy's channel for more up-to-date narcissism content.